Hello, and on the gaming table today, something a little bit different from Danubia. This is the other Danubia game. Danubia is the campaign that Peter set up for his kind of 1920s, 30s Poirot-inspired game that you would have seen us do with the Napolini or Eisenhower rules. And here, Kim was inspired by that to use the Twilight of Divine Right rules to do the same sort of thing in kind of the early 1600s. And so here we actually had a 4-player game, which is kind of a loose campaign game. 4 different players, 4 different forces, all kinds of crazy interactions, and so we'll see what happens. So here you can see some of the early action as my forces, which is from the Kingdom of Bohemia, comes onto the table. Facing me over on the left are the Ruritanians. They're an opposition force to me. With the 4-player game here, we had 4 players kind of diagonally opposite of each other, being at least less hostile towards each other, whereas those of us kind of adjacent to each other, were more aggressive towards each other. So here, the Ruritanians were definitely an opposing force for me. And on the right would be the League of Noricum, who would come and have a go at me later on. And then the other force in the corner, which is the Despotate of Petrovedro, they were nominally my loose allies for this game. Each of us had different objectives that we were trying to achieve. It wasn't set and it wasn't known to the other sides when we got started. And you can see the village in the middle. That usually was one of the objectives, but not always. It might have just been to prevent someone else from taking that village or to cause a lot of damage to one of the other forces. So anyway, here I'm moving on in a column. I've got Chris, who's the player with the Ruritanians, moving on in a column as well here. And you can see that he's starting to deploy across in front of the village here. I wasn't actually aware early on that you could actually make double moves in the rules. I don't know these rules very well at all. So Chris got the jump on me there. And I was also a bit tangled up by these walled fields here. I thought they were just for decoration in the beginning, but apparently they actually have a movement effect in the game, so that didn't help me either. Anyway, as I said, I don't know these rules very well. Carry on. And here a little bit later, as Chris and I have been deploying our forces, up at the top of the screen, you can see the Despotate of Petrovedro forces. Those are controlled by George. They're starting to come on. And also in the top right, Jeremy's forces, which are from the League of Noricum, are moving on column down the road there, and they're starting to make their presence known as well. So here's the view from a little bit later. So I'm in the bottom right corner here, started to kind of deploy, as you can see, having a little bit of trouble bringing up my next columns of infantry though as well. Some failed orders and things like that, slowing me down. Meanwhile, Chris has got his Ruritanians basically starting from the village in a big long line off to the left of the picture. Some of his units are in column, but most of them are in line facing me. And then from the village on the road there going towards the right is Jeremy's forces from the League of Noricum. So they're coming on and starting to deploy, and things are generally facing me here. At the back of the table, so at the top of the picture here, George had his despotate forces broken up into 3 different pieces, and he was trying to distract Chris, engage Jeremy, and go for the town all at the same time. So we'll see how that worked out in a minute. So here are the developments with George's forces. At the top left there, you can see some puffs of smoke as there's some gunfire exchanged between some light horse and a tertio that's over there. In the center, there is a unit of George's despotate forces, which is quite close to the village. However, it's just 1 unit, and Chris has got a lot of forces there to hold that back. And meanwhile, Jeremy has also tried to deploy some forces against George's column coming down the road on the top right. You can see behind George's initial cavalry forces here, there's not a lot. It was taking a little while for his forces to get onto the table. So he's going to get a little bit beaten up here, as we'll see soon. So here over the next few photos, you'll see some of the action that goes on as George's forces at the back there get engaged by a variety of units. He loses a couple there, and his cavalry wing is starting to get in a little bit of danger. Meanwhile, I'm having a lot of trouble actually deploying. I managed to take some high ground on the right of the photo here, but then I can't really move forward. I'm having a lot of trouble and failing orders, basically, to try and bring my troops forward. So meanwhile, Chris and Jeremy are able to have a field day with George and basically take out most of his cavalry command. Eventually that routs off the table, which then means his other wing, his infantry wing, is also in trouble and is also like rolling to see whether it falls back and withdraws from the table as well. So yeah, not very good, and me not being able to really move forward and do anything here was just not really helping George. With the issue at the top of the picture between the Despotate forces and everybody else basically decided, and George being forced to withdraw soon, then Chris's Ruritanians and Jeremy's Noricum forces basically started coming at me. So then I was in a defensive fight for the rest of the game, trying to hold the high ground, not to lose too much as I fell back a little bit, and generally just holding out for dark at this stage. Chris came down at me on the left of the picture here. Jeremy came at me from the right of the picture here. And generally speaking, I was just trying to hold ground, not take too many losses, and wait for nightfall. And so this was the situation just as dusk fell and night overtook us. George's Petrovedro forces are nowhere to be seen. I've managed to hold a line and I'll be falling back under dark, but we've left the field to the Ruritanians and the League of Noricum to have their way with the village. Chris's dragoons actually went into the village and then found a large stock of alcohol and got thoroughly drunk. And so they've captured the town, but maybe they're not making the best use of it. Apparently, I have a good press officer because Danubia is apparently hailing the resistance of the Bohemians as they fell back under the combined assault of the Ruritanians and the Noricum forces. So we'll see what happens in the next fight, which is actually scheduled for next weekend. Kim is going to put something on at the Hong Kong Society of Wargamers Club for the four of us once again. So we'll see how that goes. But for now, I hope you found that a little bit interesting. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again real soon.